Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lucie Lederhendler. I'm the curator here at the Art Gallery of Southwestern Manitoba, which is located on Treaty 2 territory, the traditionally shared lands of the Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene, and Anishinaabe people, as well as the homeland of the Métis Nation. Thank you for joining us for this lunch and look of the 18th annual Member Show, which opened for us last night. And with us today, we have several of the artists who have participated, and more are filing in all the time. So what we're going to do, hopefully, is just wander around slowly, taking a pause at the artworks as we approach them. And I hope that we can all talk amongst ourselves. What we're doing is live streaming on the AGSM Facebook, YouTube, Facebook and YouTube accounts. So if you wanted to interact with us online, you can do that in the comment section there. We're also recording this for your WCG TV, so if you're in the Westman area, you can watch us periodically after it's been edited together. Notes for people who are here in person, you can hear the echo in here. You are welcome to have conversations amongst yourselves. That's really the spirit of the thing. But if you could take it outside and have a coffee while you do that, and then you can come back inside, really only one person at a time in order to make the sound better. Also, you want to speak into this microphone, otherwise you'll be lost to the videos. So, very clear? Great, let's get started. We're going to quickly go through everything, and people can raise their hands as you want to. A special thing for me, this is the second member show that I've curated, and because there were so many works, I think there's about 160 works in here, I had to separate the artists into, to make it more aesthetically pleasing and literally to fit them on the walls. So here, I know that we have one of the artists in attendance at least, but I'll ask maybe Doug to come and talk about this first of the three pieces that you put in, called Pals.
Okay. This is a little piece that I did that was prompted by a scene from my two grandchildren when they were a bit younger, and they were playing in the yard there and playing with chalk. Now here it looks like they're drawing in the dirt, but I took some artistic license, right? So it's not really on the dirt. But the other thing that struck me yesterday as I looked at this, I realized there's a difference in age between these two children. One is they're a couple of years apart, and I noticed who has the bag of chalk, who's in control, and so that's, I guess, another little aspect of this piece.
Yeah, it's such a classic pose. And you can really see that, yeah, pals, sure, but in that way where there's a dynamic that's a little...
It's a hierarchy.
Exactly, exactly. And please do stop me if I walk by any art that you want to see, but since there's so many artists present today, I want to keep going. Let's just take it this way. Everybody join. We have some book work by senior Westman artist Elaine Rounds. A beautiful graphic piece by Erin Witherspoon that you might have noticed in the publicity for this work. Haley Vandenberg, Jan Jenkins, and Irene Patterson over here. And I'll ask Doug to pop over. I know that he really wants you guys. If you guys can crowd in as well. Because first we have classic Dirksen, though vertical. I'm not very used to seeing the portrait orientation. But this accomplishment of getting the Milky Way with runners everywhere. We've talked before about how a part of your process is actually getting out to those locations, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah. So I've been doing Milky Way for a couple of years, and it's something I really have enjoyed doing. I like being in quiet places in nature. Both of these pieces have non-nature or human elements in them, so that's been something different for me. And the other thing that's been really interesting is to try and capture the Milky Way in a way that, as you say, the stars don't stream. You can see in the top of this one there's a bit of stretching going on, but this is actually one photograph. Sometimes I'll piece them together as a panorama. This is a super wide angle lens, and so these stars here, if you were standing beside me, are actually straight above. So this one shot from the horizon all the way going more than 90 degrees above. So it's interesting to try and figure out how many stars to process. because the sensors pick up a lot more light than legal eyes do, I think just about anybody else. So in some ways, it's a reflection of the experience, which is really what's most important to me, both the physical, but also the emotional connection to the land. And so, yeah, this is a representation. You can see the Milky Way, the Horse Nebula, which the other one's just kind of below the horizon. But it's a dance of, you know, what to bring up and what not to. And the new sensors are. And the last piece.
I wanted to ask, though, why you chose to include that industrial view at the bottom.
Yeah, sure. It's actually ties both pieces together. So this is Nesbitt, the Brandon Hills. It's an old elevator. It's no longer in use. So there isn't much light on it, which is nice. There's just like one bulb here. This is about a 20-second exposure, so it lit up the elevator nicely. And the town. So why did I choose this? I guess in both pieces, this is an old church not far from there, farther south on the Burbank Road, I think it's called. Anyway, it always strikes me that we assume that all of these things that we build are super important. As they start to disintegrate, we feel this great sense of loss. And yet, as Europeans or settlers, non-Indigenous people, we've only been here for about 150 years, maybe. A lot of these buildings are even less than that. And so it just sort of, in this one, it puts it in place. That's actually maybe not all that significant, even though an elevator was an incredible amount of work to build in those days, and an incredible amount of work to so that's sort of the essence of that.
The title is Small World. You also mean Short World.
Yeah.
The duration.
And it's us, our world. We seem to think it's so big, and yet you get out standing there in the middle of the night, and you feel pretty small in a way, and yet you feel really connected. At least. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to capture that, and I've got rivers and streams which are more natural, but somehow, I don't know, this drew me. I tried to set it up so that the Milky Way was between the elevator and the town, and anyway. So this one, same idea. So this is a church, and here is the Milky Way. And the Horse Nebula is kind of covered over a little bit right here, if that's interesting. I think about 3 years ago, at the event that we had last night at the members' show opening, Kurt Schultz, I don't think he's here, at least not yet, he's got other work in here. As we were walking out, he said to me, I'd really like to paint on your photographic canvases. So this is a collaboration between Kurt and myself. And so all of this, the TP poles, that's Kurt. He put in more spatter, put in the spatter here, he added a bit of green color. I think he calls this a little sprite. So I've been doing this for a couple of years, and it's really interesting because some of the pieces, we've done maybe 4 canvases and 3 or 4 smaller pieces on paper, and some of them I just give to him. So I'm not telling you a thing. Uh-huh. And you figure out, and so he's a graphic artist and graphic novel kind of, it's sort of his background, and so I never know what he's going to do. So the one piece he did, it's got a little boat in it with some people, and it looks like the cover of a fantasy novel. And this one I actually talked to him about exactly what I was saying before, that often when I'm standing there I think, well, yeah, it's a shame this is disappearing, but so what? There's thousands of years of other history here that we don't really see. And he agreed, and we talked about this, and I just left. Yeah. And then 3 months later, this is what he had. So I don't know if there's much else to say.
Again, we really do encourage people to come closer, to look closer. It's really valuable for, can you hear me if I'm this close? It's really valuable for this piece in particular, I find, because the quality of the stars that were caught in the lens versus the stars that were applied to the canvas is really quite different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's really funny. Somebody asked yesterday if all of the stars were painted in. Yeah. And no, they weren't. So it gives you a bit of a comparison.
I mean, people do it.
Well, I think what he used was a toothbrush. But anyway, have to ask him.
Yeah.
Any questions, or I'll just turn this back to you.
Okay. If there are none. Right. Before we leave, we have a new artist who's joined us. This is Haley. Hi. So these are the two pieces here. You also got by virtue of necessity. But let's talk about this really piece in the first place.
Joe, sorry, I walked in a few minutes late too. I came straight from work. I did this for our othering project and painting 4. It started off as something completely different, as a lot of my projects usually do. But I had this concept to have the canvas overflowing, and I thought this would get a good try it. I'm a hairstylist, but hair to me has always just been hair. It always grows back. It wasn't my crown. I was a big tomboy growing up too, so I always had short hair. So yeah, I had to go with othering and gender, and as I'm non-binary, so I thought I'd
Was
give it a
this
shot.
painted?
Sorry, that's okay.
Was this painted right before the big chop?
No, it's after. I shaved my head in April, so yeah.
And then this other piece behind you, when it came in, 2 staff members immediately were like, I think this was a student of Chris Reed's, which we can see very nicely. We'll move on to, they actually can see each other through the gallery if you're here in person. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
We moved a lot growing up, and it's very stressful. If anyone's ever moved, it's the worst. So I decided it'd be really easy if you could pack up your house. And I actually wasn't planning on making it into a painting. I was making it as more of an installation physical piece. But Kevin DeForest at BU told me it would work as a painting as well. And it was one of my ideas for my finals last year, but I actually painted it in the summer because I went with my other idea for the final. It's how it turned out. I think it's really, I have a weird kitsch style sometimes, and I would like to try it again. And same as that one, I want to add more to it. But this one I'm hoping to keep working and keep creating different things to work with the idea.
Thanks very much. And I hope that you will keep this one in your mind's eye when we pass by the Chris Reed as well, because the expression, it's like two faces at once. One's very suspicious and one's kind of concerned. We'll look at the Chris Reed later. So we'll move on in the uncreative counterclockwise tour that we're having here. Okay, so here are 2 salon walls, again with people that I had to differentiate a bit. Here we have Hernan Flores, who I know much better as a ceramicist. He spends a lot of time in our studio. But here we have a beautiful photograph and a 2-dimensional puppeteer, which I've paired with Marissa Mayhew's illustration of a family of witches, the triplets. So this idea of manipulation. And wonderful sketches by Elaine Scott, Play in the Blues, Mama and Her Pups, and The Proud Prince, who's a colored rooster. And Elaine talked to me about Mama and Her Pups. This is her mother at 20. This is from a photograph of her these animals, and apparently all of the siblings remember this, even though they weren't around for it, and are fighting over this drawing. It's first time in the members show. Becky Chin, definitely not her first time, has given us 3 watercolors that I think really show the range that she's capable of. Rob Lovett, certainly not his last time either. These are photographs mounted on canvas, and he calls it excerpts from a conversation. These are two mountains from the Canadian Rockies leaning towards each other with a really different kind of textural vocabulary, right, as they engage. Judy McIntosh. Is Judy McIntosh here? Do you want to come talk? Stop. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was hoping you would come. This is your first time in member show as well.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, I was pretty excited. Yeah.
And what you said to me is that you took a huge number of photos of this kind of stand of old birches. And did you make many more paintings than this, or is this the one that really spoke to you?
That's the one that, yeah, as you say, it really spoke to me. I've been watching these trees for probably 4 years, maybe 5, through all the seasons. So I have pictures of all the seasons, but this was the one that really stood out, and I could really see the owl as well as what I called the mask. And this year was sad.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
And this year was sad because these two are gone. They were felled in a storm. And this guy is, well, like the rest of us, is aged, and he's gray and grizzled. And I think I'd like to do a picture of that at that stage.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so cool, and I would stop and be taking pictures, and people would walk by and go, "What?" And off they'd go, and I think, "Do you see that face?"
Yeah.
But no, I just thought it was just really cool. I still really think it's cool.
And you titled it The Guardian. Can you tell me
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, I just thought it was watching, like there's a path that goes right beside it, and then it's also right by the road that goes up to the campground, and then the other road that runs, parallel. And I thought, yeah, it's just like the guardian of the woods. When we walked through one day, there was a deer there, and it's just really, I don't know, I think it's exciting. I like nature, I guess, but yeah.
It is very exciting, and we've included the source photo,
I'm
which
glad
you
you
didn't
did.
insist on, but I think it really shows there's different expressions that you've drawn out from the source photo is what you can see
And
there.
it is a real thing, in the trees, a very natural, Mother Nature's work of art,
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
Wonderful. We have another piece in the show that's actually painted on birch bark, and you can see all of that texture really manifesting in the landscapes. Nice inversion there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Hannah here? Okay, this is Hannah de los Rios. This is another fine arts student at BU, giving us perhaps our most conceptual piece, Discuss. So this is a single installation, cast of the artist's body, and hands done in charcoal and ink on tracing paper, but also hung in this very clever scroll way, which I think gives it a sense of timelessness. Now we'll get Doug back here. As I said, we've separated a couple of the artists, so it's going to go like this as we walk around, unless anybody has a better order. Yeah.
You're making me work harder today.
You get to relax after this. Yeah.
Anyways, these again are have to do with relationships, similar to the other one, right? And the works that I do are basically come from my own experience, one way or the other. I don't like to copy other people's stuff. So this one is a piece that was conceived some years ago. It was conceived by an occasion when my daughter and my mother were sitting chatting, looking over a wedding book. She had just been married not long before, and they were talking about this and remembering. So it's what eventually came out as I finished this piece this year. This piece, again, is a little piece of friends chatting at a wedding that I was at. And one of the things about this piece I've been experimenting over the years, I paint in acrylics. And the background on this one is built up of many, many layers of glazing colors to give that color. And it gives I think, a certain depth that is hard to get with just one single layer of paint. So this is part of a series that I have done or am doing on relationships and friends chatting and people chatting.
And I know that I have at least 2 students who have taken my art history course. When I said to Doug when I first saw this one is that it reminds me of The Death of Marat by David, because texture is in that flat color. It's really, really lively with its uniformity. So look closer and you can see that glazing technique really at work.
Well, the idea for me came from some of the works of Rothko, Mark
Yeah.
Rothko, right?
Yeah.
So again,
Who really
similar.
deconstructed that technique.
Yeah.
Totally. Is Erica or Jenna here? Hi.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm Jenna.
Jenna. By one of Jenna's at the front, which was a little chick, but very much in the same style. This kind of broken down pointillist, really, really joyful paintings. Can you tell us a little bit about?
Excuse me, I've never before. Yeah.
So, This one, totally charming, and you named it Smile instead of Chick, which is the name of the other one. What was the inspiration? What was the source of this? Were you trying to create something that creates a tension between dangerous and approachable, or was it just a funny photo that you found and wanted to capture?
Kind of a bit of both, I would say. This one really, it was kind of like a work that I'd worked on for like a couple years, just adding to it. And I don't know, I have a thing about having like high contrast in my art. Like I really like the bright, obnoxious colors, as you could probably tell by my hair too. But yeah, that's kind of it, definitely, for sure.
Great. And then let's talk hugely about your technique with this one, because it's kind of zoomed in on these little brush strokes that add a depth in a completely different way than we were talking about with Doug. So what attracts you to that kind of pointless technique?
Well, again, I really like to make a big focal point in my artworks. I really like for my subject matter to really stand out. So this one I did a lot of experimenting in the color. The background went through several different changes before I decide, and that's why I always do my backgrounds last, which is maybe not as normal for everyone, but I just have trouble deciding before the subject matter is painted. So.
Yeah. And when you change your mind, do you go totally flat again, or do you keep adding bits?
I just keep adding.
That's great. I think that's really common. Whether it's the foreground or the background, that indecision. I know it when I see it. I know it when I'll see it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Right now.
Thanks so much. Is Anne here? No. I assume that Sophie isn't here because she's our youngest artist at 12 years old. Please admire. I know that Marguerite isn't here because she's in Alberta. Linda. Now Chris Reed, we just not here, but I just want to have a pause on this so that we can remember Haley's deconstructed house as well with this other expression. And this is very classic Chris Reed with the Baba Yaga references, and this is her cipher of herself. Also submitted the only animation that, which is very exciting because she actually sponsored and produced the Westman Animation Festival this October, because she has been working on this animation piece and she really wants to develop a culture of animation in the Westman area. And then this adorable thing behind me is one of the characters that's also in this animation, is why they stay next to each other. It's very, very interesting installation, half 2D, half 3D clouds with some electricity. Tufted caribou hair and embroidery on this one by Darlene. Is Nova here? Or Jacine? Alexander? Great. This is the last of our multimedia pieces. She explained to me last night that it's about resilience over trauma. So she pictures this as kind of a bullet hole-ridden torso that still has some illumination coming from within. And it's part of a series of 3 called Woman, Life, Freedom. Craig Milliken is no stranger to the gallery. This fabulous triptych by Passia Mitchell. Anybody who hasn't introduced themselves to me is going to have to raise their hand if they're here. She's actually a commercial photographer, and these are clients. I think it was an engagement photo shoot, which is really, really touching, and especially when you could take it out of that context and still tell such a nice story. Are there any questions right now? There's so many artists. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk, is why I'm talking faster than I know you're supposed to. Okay. Kathy Metelsky, I believe, yes. Thank you. So this is titled Veil Over Darkness. It's a multimedia piece. It's a mixed media piece with an applique on it. And there's a bit of engineering on the back as well. Is that right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
graduated or are involved in the program over at Brandon University.
Hold that closer to your mouth.
Are involved in the program over at university. And for the people out in the community who are seniors and think they're too old to learn to do this, I registered at 67 and graduated at 76. And for seniors, tuition is $25 a year. It's a great thing for seniors to do.
Thank you.
So as I went through the program, I need to stand on that side. As I went through the program, I found that the kind of art that made my heart sink was abstract art. And further, I discovered that I needed to really loosen up. I was feeling like everything I did was perfect and tight and didn't loan itself to abstract art. So when I got to doing my thesis here, I made up my project to complete an entire show without using brushes. So what you're going to see here is the kind of work that I now do that I really, really like doing. I usually start off not having any idea what's going to happen. I call it my, I wonder what would happen if process. So I'll start, for instance, with this one. I chose a palette up here that I hadn't really developed before. And I started just, applying layers of color, pouring it, sloshing it, using palette knives and what do tradesmen use that's...
Paint roller?
Pardon?
Paint roller?
No rollers. They use it to spread glue and... Pardon me? Bigger. Never mind. I'm using all kinds of things that are unusual. And oftentimes I will work with very dilute paint. In this particular one, if you get closer, you'll see some real textural kind of stuff in there where I was using with dilute paint and chasing it with a hairdryer. So I had done all that before I graduated. And part of my personal story is in here as well. Soon after I graduated, I developed macular degeneration, which is an eye problem that just distorts everything that you look at. And I just, for a long time, I couldn't drive, I couldn't see, I couldn't read, and I couldn't do art. But my brain learned to deal with that. And I got interested in picking this piece up and finishing it. And that happened last January, just before Joe Biden was installed as president. And in his State of the Union address, I heard him say, "Remember, people, light will win over darkness." And I thought, I can do something with that. Jack Layton also made a statement like that before he died. He was the head of the NDP party in Canada before he died. So I took it and started developing contrasting light and darkness. I'm thinking about all the things in the last 15 years that have happened both in the States and Canada. The financial meltdown in 2008, all the environmental disasters, fires and floods and hurricanes, and then we got into the pandemic, and then all the gun violence that's gone on, and all the civil violence and riots that have happened, and the racism and hate, and the disenfranchisement, the kind of thing that is happening right now with all the debate around abortion. And that's what I was seeing as I developed this part. I had done this mask as part of a 3D course when I was at BU. And it kept coming to mind. And so I lifted it off its original and revised it and set it here. And for me, this represents all the people whose lives have literally been torn apart and destroyed by all this other stuff that is happening. they're stuck between the light and the darkness. They're stuck between hope and despair. They've largely gone unrecognized. These are all the families whose people died during the pandemic. They never got counted. People who died got counted, but we have no idea how many millions of people are still living like this. Everything that's gone into here came out of my yard.
I do encourage everybody to come closer and look at those details and all of the layering, especially up here where you can see that those translucent layers that have been chased around with the hairdryer. Interesting. Not just values, but the textures that are being made at the top and bottom of this canvas, where one is free and one is very cemented, I think. Yeah.
And an interesting thing related to my inability as well is that when I built this and added the branches, I realized that this reflected the texture up here. Back this far, I can't. That also represents my years.
Thank you very much. Is Lisa here? Okay, some mono prints on the ends of both of these columns. I know Dustin's here. No? Okay, so Dustin, this is his first time at the members show. And he's an active member of the Camera Club, the Brandon Camera Club, so we're very happy to have him here. And he has these lovely wildlife photographs, one called Frosty Reception, Amber Above, this beautiful yellow-eyed owl, and Facing Winter is this bison. And I got these titles mixed up because the bison has frosty face and the porcupine's facing us. Great face on this porcupine. You should look at it closer. George is not here, but Oreo is. We have 3 pieces in a triptych, but is behind here.
Hello everyone. My pen name is Oreo, just because I like the cookie. My real name is Dhairya, which means patience. This one I did for my drawing one project. It was called Reveal and Conceal Assignment. And I thought Polaroids are a great way to express the idea. Plus, I thought about stacking up all the photographs so that only one of them is visible like fully. And the first one that's visible fully is a diary entry, like when I started writing in my bullet journal. So it means a lot to me, and all the other photographs are some of the best memories or photographs that I clicked in my life. This is just me clicking a photograph of something. So it was a great experience, and I'm very grateful for putting my works here, because when I arrived in Canada a year ago, the first exhibition that I saw here was the members show, and looking at the paintings, I thought, wow, this is like a dream to have works exhibited in a great gallery like this. And yeah, today, after 1 year, I'm here. So thank you.
Not just here, part of the family, but I think there's an amazing arts community in this relatively relatively small space. And then I think this is brand new for you, is by virtue of being a student at BU. There are lots of students in this show as well. Had you ever tried ceramics before?
Nope. So trying ceramics was really, really amazing. It was kind of like learning to draw once again in my life. So imagine like the best feeling that you had the first time and then experiencing it again for the first time, right? It's so exciting. And this one I kind of wanted to make a tribute to my mother, who liked to like 3D works, wine bottle decorating and stuff. So I did the patterns according to her and got inspirations from her. And it's called Not Yours because signed Not Yours at the bottom, thinking that when someone would lift it and see the artist, they would have a smile on their face.
Thank you. We'll get to the third painting later, which is of the massive number of hands that students have to draw in their first year. Kurt Knoll, I don't believe, is here, well known. Melissa Miller is here. Can you come talk about your work? Make you do it. Yeah.
What should I say?
Well, you said these come to you in dreams. Let's start.
Career is so long that I could spend here 10 hours talking non-stop, telling you all the kind of stories. But as an artist, I have the idea that there are a number of elements that create art. The first is observation. Open up your eyes, look at the world. Second is analysis of that world. There are so many things happening visually that we have to discard some, improve on some other ones, study some more, and so on. And the third stage is production of art. Production of art, again, you have very complex things because we have so many mediums. What to choose? Do I want to be watercolorist or oil painter or acrylic painter or whatever? I chose to be everything. I lived long enough and I experimented. I painted acrylics. In 1975, I did a big exhibition of acrylic paintings, and I say, never again I will paint acrylics. I didn't like them. Didn't work. So I went back to oils. I went back into printmaking. I went to electronic medias. And lately, I went into primitive technique of children's oil pastels. And I concentrate now on people relations, human relations, because we are living in a world those relations are always destroyed. I try to build them. Some of them are sad, some of them are happy, whatever comes to my mind. I observe one group of so-called artists here in Brandon. They get together, and the first thing is, what should I paint? So they look at, oh, he's painting landscape, and he's painting still life, and he's painting portrait. Or maybe I will paint a landscape. Now, did you ever see the landscape to paint? Understanding the world that you try to reproduce in works is a very complex issue. You have to develop certain sense of vision, analysis, and certain personality before you can do it. I observe all the time. Always open, my mind always works. Even when I go to bed at night, I read, then I fall asleep, and suddenly 2 o'clock in the morning I am waking up. I say, I have that big idea. I got up, go to my studio, spend hour or two sketching, then I get up and I look at it and say, I love it. So I go to work on it and spend many hours to do. So like work like that takes me about 2 days of hard work. Not only that, but I don't use any tools to blend pastels. I use my fingers and see what happens. They won't out. But it works for me. So whatever it works, you apply to it. And you have to, as an artist, you have to be not only creator of visual works, you have to be philosopher, you have to be humanist. All those things put together. It's a wonderful profession, very frustrating, very frustrating. I don't know why my wife put up with me for over 60 years, because I'm a miserable guy. But I love it. And my career actually started long time before some of you were born, because I exhibited first work in 1947 in the International Exhibition of Children's Art in Hiroshima, Japan. There was a peace conference, and they decided to display children's artwork. So mine was accepted as one. After that, I decided I don't want to be an artist. I was drawing all the time, and my grandmother always collected my drawings and said, you have to be an artist. I said, I don't want to be an artist, I want to be a poet. So I started writing poetry and short stories. I was published poet in Poland. I was translated into German, published in Germany. And the last poem I wrote was in 1965. I came to Canada. I could not speak English at all. So I wrote one poem in Polish and said, who the hell is going to read that? Nobody. And I cannot write in English. So I listened to my grandmother, who was dead already for a number of years, and went back into visual arts. And gradually I developed career. I was professor of art at university. I exhibited in Europe, in Japan, in United States, in Canada. My works are in public collections in National Museum in Poland, in Germany, all over.
Yeah. And I think that when you talk about developing the career, what you mean isn't that you had to work for the success, but you had to learn all of these different techniques.
Of course. It was like a few years ago I did have exhibition copies of masterpieces.
Yeah. You said you'd never do that again.
I will never do it again because I spent a number of years studying techniques of other artists. And sometimes the material is accessible, sometimes we don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Especially in Brandon.
Discover those things.
Yeah. I'm going to encourage everyone to come up and look very closely at these because you can see all of these layers. The colors are impossible to kind of understand because there's so many layers. I'm going to go check the internet to see if there's any comments from the audience, and then we'll keep going.
Brandon's on K-Row, and she always called me colorist.
Yes, there you go. So I'll be right back and we'll continue. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to do this first and then. Yeah. And then at the end, I think back and get you to talk about your 2Ds. Yeah. Are Martin or Sharon here? Martin Penfold, Sharon Habak? No? I know Dwayne isn't here, but I would, so these wonderful hyper-realistic images by Martin Penfold and Sharon Habak really, I think, capture an essence of Canadiana that's really appealing and especially to be included in this show. Dwayne Claridge is an old member of the AGSM family. You may recognize this style from our Prairie Vernacular Artist Spotlight videos, where he does all of this form casting to create a steampunk urban city imagery, which is just compelling. And he's also work. TJ Salbin is another student who's presented in the member show before and is going to be having a show in the community gallery this coming year. Catherine Parker is in Ontario, but will be joining us for the artist talk on the 16th, I believe. There's, as I said, formal artist talks on the 16th and the 9th. We're going to go more in depth. Taiwo Ohu is our farthest member. He is in South Africa. He's Yoruba of Nigerian descent, living in South Africa, and actually shipped these works of Manitoba government buildings to us in order to be included. And Jean David, can I ask you to come up and talk about your work? Another newcomer to Brandon, yes?
Yes. Hi everybody, and I'm very thankful and grateful to be participate with the AGSM gallery, and these are free painting from my home studio, and I bring the color of blue, the royalty blue, in value as a sky, as a bay, and painting the first one is called a clockwise, all seen with a moving sky. It's a relaxed corner, everybody who likes those. And the second most a heaven sky, a peace place, a relax, and also the shadow and the light in this painting shows the nature of living outside and the flowers, yes. And the third one is a coastal, is that true, yeah? The coastal landscaping in a dimension of three, the down and middle and upper land that you can see sometimes when you be on the front of a land very far and deep, and also a frozen sky when it's winter, things like changing, smog, moving. That's, thank you. And
Something about much of your work is that you really play with flat areas and then really, really textured areas in order to build up the complexity of the picture, yeah?
exactly, and it's landscaping, it depends on your vision, how you like to bring it in a value, and also the flat to represent also the space around, but we have in.
Sort of nature. That's what I do with ceramic. Now I'm sort of switching to sculpturing. Basically, I'm switching to sculpture because of another approach that I'm taking with ceramic. Is the issue of as a social expression, social expression of our time, and sort of. So I'm building a lot of people on, which I will. I don't know if you have the picture of.
Of the juggler or the.
Yeah, the
marionette?
puppeteer.
Yeah, no.
So basically, well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. You want to take a walk all the way across? No, let's keep going this way, and then we'll
Yeah,
get to you at
sure.
the end. Okay.
No
So,
problem.
like I said, I introduced by saying I had to separate all the artists a lot because there was so much
no
work.
Problem, no problem.
Okay. Is Studio Curtis here? People don't have to. They don't want to. Oreo, did you want to talk about? Oh. Oreo's also working, so. so. Hi, oh. Working and watching.
I was watching the live.
Yeah.
This piece is called Peace. I named it Peace because it's the feeling you get when you are hugged by your loved one. That is it. And this project, this was part of my painting one project, the hands assessment. And this is the first one that I did. The other ones were better than this, but I decided to go with this one for the, yeah, yeah. I decided to go with this one for the exhibition because, I don't know, it just had a special connection with me. Yeah.
I like this one too. I referenced this in class when we were talking about the Arnolfini wedding portrait as well, where the hands are such characters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Art history all the way, guys. Thanks. Is Trent here? So this one thing happened out of total coincidence. It was important to me to put the quirky sculptures by Art App Oscar, which you see on the floor here, in the outline of this painting. And then Trent Brolin, who works with old-fashioned photography methods, has done this reflective worn tree trunk that really reflects, I think, the shape of this skull and antler form. I don't think either of them are here. So we'll move on. Here's our landscape wall. Darlene's not here. I referenced this piece of landscape that's actually done on birch bark when we were talking about the Guardian over there. I think it's a really nice comparison if you wanted to look at them again later. I think Natalie came. Yes? Okay, great. So this is also Natalie Blouin's first time in the members show, and has made the, I think, very wise decision of taking up wall space with a single huge landscape. Really, really striking for how it is and how much depth you've achieved with a really, really limited palette. Mm-hmm. So can you talk to me about those decisions?
It's honestly all intuitive.
Yeah.
I've been painting for quite a while, and I take a lot of photos of where I live currently, and it's very dreamy where I live, and that's what I hope to do is capture that in my paintings with just a soft hand, like which one of the other artists, sorry, just being soft with your hands, as you had said with your other being abstract, so that's something that I tried to...
Soft application of paint, having soft hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's what I was trying to, I'm trying to achieve here, so yeah.
Yeah, great. So where is it that you live? And the dreaminess, I assume, is a positive characteristic.
Absolutely. I live in St. Louis,
Okay.
Manitoba.
Okay. And that dream sense?
Yeah, it's just whimsical there. I'm from Ontario originally, so this just, it's nature, it's hilly valleys, and it's just beautiful.
And you said that you take a lot of photographs. Is this a single photograph that really worked, or do you just plaster your walls with them?
Yeah, it's mostly just scrolling through my phone and putting it together.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. I really love the tone of this bottom bit. How much there's just an incredible amount of blues and browns in there. That yet the overall effect is something very, very warm. Yeah. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
I don't know if Monica's watching on live stream and would like to come into the gallery real quick as we continue. I don't think Denis Lesage is here. Or Katie Dorn? Or Dina? Okay. Evna, would you like to come talk about your pieces here? And I saw Becky. So I didn't even know that you did two-dimensional art, and then you show up with these, these really accomplished things here.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I said that I like to, my approach is to do social, art has a social commentary. And the focus that I'm taking is to try to represent in a more modest way a profession that doesn't exist in this moment. I mean, I'm dating myself in here, but when I was young, they have all this profession that you don't see anymore. And one of them, sort of, and that was a little bit before my time, it was a puppeteer. People who used to travel, from town to town with the puppet and telling, sort of telling story or representing with the puppet their story. And they were a little bit the one that carried the gossip from one to down to the other. So this is part I acrylic, and I was experimenting with stained glass. So that's why we have sort of, I tried to use the style of sort of stained glass in the background and trying to represent this character that was traditionally was a character that existed in Spain, for a long time, and then was transferred to Latin America, where I come from. So that's part of my approach to, but I'm also a little bit, I guess, attention deficit person. So I also sort of, I like to walk, and actually I wasn't intended to, but I'm used to travel with my camera all over, and I like to look at things, sort of, and take a picture. And I like to walk in nature, and sometimes I get attracted to the most insignificant thing to other people, but for me, it just sort of resonate. In this case, I was walking in a park near St. Norbert in autumn, sort of during the autumn, and suddenly I saw the dew on this leaf, and I decided to just take a picture. So that's basically what I am.
It's an example of how the camera can help you notice things, because it's also not just the dew on the leaf, but it's still a green leaf that's falling among all the dead leaves.
Sort of greens, the green sort of still surviving the decay around it, itself.
Yeah. Wonderful, thank you. Now, I think Clemente was here. Is there anybody else who I've missed in this tour? Let's make sure the cameras get to go around this back side of the wall, because we didn't look at it, and I encourage all of you to look at it, but none of those artists are present. I'm going to take the scenic route. Oh, is Clemente even still here? So this is another wall of AGSM family. Mary Lowe has been here many times. There's also this wonderful three-dimensional horse sculpture that she submitted. Erica Holloway, we've seen bits of her work throughout, including a photograph of 4 moose standing in a perfect line. I don't know how she got that to happen. And a really interesting bee painting where she's included a very ornate frame as part of the medium. Dawn Redlin submitted 2 other panoramic landscapes, and Surian Foury, many of you may know as our photography teacher here. She teaches digital smartphone photography, but also is an accomplished abstract painter who will also be having a show in our community gallery very soon. So really interesting work. And as long as I didn't miss anybody, oh, Clemente, would you like to speak? Yes, great. Hiding in the back. Everybody, follow me to the beginning again. So another one of our first timers in the members show from Carberry, long-time painter, but you took a long time off, you told me.
30 years not doing anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just started last year
Yeah, go ahead.
and never stopped painting. I started young, very young, and then I went to college, took up commercial arts. Then I was a troubled kid, and I went to different ways, changed careers. That's why I stopped painting. So with this pandemic, I don't know, like you cannot go anywhere. That's why I made to paint again, and never stop painting. I always like to paint the prairies. I got some series of elevators. First time I came to Manitoba, me and my wife was just looking for a house or a place. We were almost lost, and we stopped by with the guy, and then we asked where's this place, and then the guy said, you passed that elevator. I said to my wife, I don't see any elevator here, and because I don't know an elevator. I know the elevator in the buildings, and then when I see an elevator, I was fell in love with the elevators, and then the hay bales, and I always use materials that is neglected and almost going to the trash. I always repurpose it and make something out of it, like no value, and then it will become valuable now, and it will be the piece will be. You won't buy this in a shop that those boards, and it will be unique. Yeah, it's by itself. That's why you see some cracks here.
And there's like
swelling. And I always make it a point. There's some textures on my work, and these are layers of paints, but and then I always mix. Sometimes making some textures of the artwork. I mix enamel and then acrylics to make something like this, just to pop up the work.
It feels really strong.
Yes,
sturdy.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're just fabulous. They're really accurate landscapes, but then really surreal, right?
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
I got some more than 10 of hay bale series at home, and also elevators. I got some elevators at home that finished already. And I finished this. It is a bright artwork, but when I use different kind of top coat, it make it dark. So when I finish, maybe I use a wrong top coat.
I kind of like it dark.
Okay.
It looks older.
Okay.
Like, it looks patinaed.
Because I was surprised last night when I saw it. I said, "This is not the painting I'm because maybe the top coat that I used make it darker." Yeah. But Lucie said it's good.
I think it's great because that's what I mean. It makes it so contemporary, kind of.
Yeah.
Surreal. Okay, I think that covers everything. I really encourage you guys to ask questions. We can keep walking around. We can say goodbye. I will check online here. Okay, if that's it, thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay. Talk among yourselves. There's coffee and tea, and I don't know what kind of food left out in the lobby. I'll stay around. Thank you for everyone who joined us online. Thank you for everyone who's joining us on WCG TV, the annual member show. This is the 18th edition of it, and it's on until December 17th. Some works are for show, some are for sale, and we encourage you to come down and see everything in person. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for attending and sharing your art with us. Have a great Friday. Bye.
you.